Hi, little Mead. Hope you're okay. Story time again. All the teachers at Little Mead are missing story time, so hope this will do for now. For those of you that have been listening to me all this week, you'll know that we're reading the Twits. For those of you who haven't, well, welcome anyway. All you need to know is that Mr. and Mrs. Twits are not very nice characters at all. They're horrible to each other and horrible to anybody else who stumbles into their world. Let's find out what happens next. It's called No Bird Pie for Mr. Twit. The next morning, when Mr. Twit came out with his huge basket to snatch all the birds from the big dead tree, there wasn't a single one on it. They were all sitting on top of the monkey cage. The roly-poly bird was there as well, and Mugglewump and his family were inside the cage, and the whole lot of them were laughing at Mr. Twit. So, Mr. Twit had been hoping to come out and capture all the birds. But the roly-poly bird had warned the birds not to land on the tree. Therefore, none of them had got stuck, so no birds for Mr. Twit's pie. Mr. Twit is going to be pretty mad. Mr. Twit wasn't going to wait another week for his bird pie supper. He loved bird pie. It was his favourite meal. So the very same day he went after the birds again, but this time he smeared all the top of the bars of the monkey cage with sticky glue, as well as the branches of the big dead tree. "Now I'll get you," he said, "whichever one you sit on." There he is, painting the cage, the monkey's cage, with glue. So now when the birds come to sleep in the garden, they're either going to get stuck in the tree or they're going to get stuck on the cage. The monkeys crouched inside the cage, watching all this. And later on, when the roly-poly bird came swooping in for an evening chat, they shouted out, "Don't land on our cage, roly-poly bird. It's covered in sticky glue. So is the tree." And that evening, as the sun went down and all the birds came in to roost, the roly-poly bird flew round and round the monkey cage and the big dead tree, singing out his warning to the other birds. "There's sticky stuff now on the cage and the tree. If you land on either, you'll never get free. So fly away, stay up high, or you'll finish up tomorrow in a hot bird pie." That's the big roly-poly bird who is warning the other birds. It's funny looking, isn't he? Next chapter. Mr. and Mrs. Twit go off to buy guns. The next morning, when Mr. Twit came out with his huge basket, not a single bird was sitting on either the monkey cage or the big dead tree. They were all perched happily on the roof of Mr. Twit's house. The roly-poly bird was up there as well, and the monkeys were in the cage, and the whole lot of them were hooting with laughter at Mr. Twit. "Oh, wipe that silly laugh off your beaks," Mr. Twit screamed at the birds. "I'll get you next time, you filthy, feathery frumps. I'll wring your necks, the whole lot of you, and have you bubbling in the pot for bird pie before this day is out." There he is, pretty mad. "How are you going to do that?" asked Mrs. Twit, who had come outside to see what all the noise was about. "I won't have you smearing sticky glue all over the roof of our house." Mr. Twit got very excited. "I've got a great idea," he cried. He didn't bother to keep his voice down because he didn't think the monkeys could understand. "We'll both go into town right away and we'll buy a gun each," he shouted. "How's that?" "Brilliant," cried Mrs. Twit, grinning and showing her long yellow teeth. "We'll buy those big shotguns and spray out 50 bullets or more with each bang." "Exactly," said Mr. Twit. "Lock up the house while I go. Make sure the monkeys are safely shut away." Mr. Twit went over to the monkey cage. "Attention!" he barked in his fearsome monkey trainer's voice. "Upside down, all of you, jump to it, one on top of the other, quick, get on with it, or you'll feel Mrs. Twit stick across your backsides." Obediently, the poor monkeys stood on their hands and clambered one on top of the other, with Muggle-Wump at the bottom and the smallest child at the very top. "Now, stay there till we come back," Mr. Twit ordered. "Don't you dare move. Don't overbalance. And when we return in 2 or 3 hours' time, I shall expect to find you all in exactly the same position as you are now, you understand?" With that, Mr. Twit marched away. Mrs. Twit went with him, and the monkeys were left alone with the birds. Let me show you some pictures. So here's all the birds up on the roof, not in bird pie, luckily for them. Still happy on the roof. And then here's the poor monkeys, the ones that are trapped in the cage, who have been told that they have to stay in that position for many hours while Mr. Twit goes to buy the gun. Poor monkeys. Next chapter. Muggle-Wump has an idea. As soon as Mr. and Mrs. Twit had disappeared down the road, the monkeys all flipped back onto their feet right way up. "Quick, get the key!" Muggle-Wump called out to the roly-poly bird, who was still sitting on the roof of the house. "What key?" shouted the roly-poly bird. "The key to the door of our cage," cried Muggle-Wump. "It's hanging on a nail in the work shed. That's where he always puts it." The roly-poly bird flew down, came back with the key in its beak. Muggle-Wump reached a hand through the bars of the cage and took the key. He put it in the lock and turned it. The door opened. All 4 monkeys leapt out together. "We're free!" cried the 2 little monkeys. "Where shall we go, Dad? Where shall we hide?" "Don't get excited," said Muggle-Wump. "Calm down, everybody. Before we escape from this beastly place, we have one very important thing to do." "What?" they asked him. "We're going to turn those terrible twits upside down." We're going to do what?" they cried. "You must be joking, Dad." "I'm not joking," Muggle-Wump said. "We're going to turn both Mr. and Mrs. Twit upside down with their legs in the air." "Don't be ridiculous," the roly-poly bird said. "How can we possibly turn those 2 maggoty old monsters upside down?" "Oh, we can, cried Muggle-Wump. "We are going to make them stand on their heads for hours and hours, perhaps forever. Let them see what it feels like for a change." "How?" asked the roly-poly bird. "Just tell me how." Muggle-Wump laid his head on one side, and a tiny, twinkling little smile touched the corners of his mouth. "Now and again," he said, "but not very often, I have a brilliant idea. And this is one of them. Follow me, my friends. Follow me." He scampered off towards the house, and the 3 other monkeys and the roly-poly bird went after him. "Buckets and paintbrushes," cried Muggle-Wump. "That's what we want next. There are plenty in the work shed. Hurry up, everyone. Get a bucket and a paintbrush." Inside Mr. Twit's work shed, there was an enormous barrel of Hugtite, sticky glue. You know, the stuff you use for catching birds on the tree. "Fill your buckets," Muggle-Wump ordered. "We are now going into the big house." It's a picture of them getting their buckets and getting the brushes, like Mr. Muggle-Wump has told them to. Mrs. Twit had hidden the key to the front door under the mat, and the Muggle-wump had seen her doing it, so it was easy for them to get in. In they went, all 4 monkeys, with their buckets of sticky glue. Then came the roly-poly bird flying in after them, with a bucket in his beak and a brush in his claw. The great glue painting begins. "This is the living room," announced Muggle-wump. "The grand and glorious living room where those fearful frumptuous freaks eat bird pie every week for supper." "Oh, please don't mention bird pie again," said the roly-poly bird. "It gives me the shudders." "Well, we mustn't waste time," cried Muggle-wump. "Hurry up, hurry up. Now the first thing is this. I want everyone to paint sticky glue all over the ceiling. Cover it. Smear it in every corner." "Over the ceiling?" they cried. "Why the ceiling?" "Never mind why," shouted Muggle-wump. "Just do as you're told, don't argue." "How can we get up there?" they asked. "We can't reach." "Oh, monkeys can reach anywhere," shouted Muggle-wump. He was in a frenzy of excitement now, waving his paintbrush and his bucket and leaping about all over the room. "Come on, come on! Jump on the tables, stand on the chairs, hop on each other's shoulders. Roly-poly can do it flying, don't just stand there gaping. We have to hurry, don't you understand that? Those terrible twits will be back any moment, and this time they'll have guns. Get on with it, for heaven's sake, get on with it." And so the great glue painting of the ceiling began. But that is where we're stopping our story time for today. And I think next story time we should get the story finished. So I hope you are able to join me for tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, might be Monday. Depends what the day is today. But I hope you can join me for our next Little Mead story time, when I will carry on reading The Twits by Roald Dahl. Take care. Bye.